back, everyone. People around the world are still processing the death of beloved actor Matthew Perry. His autopsy noted ketamine was in his system.
But when used correctly, professionals say it's very safe. In fact, ketamine infusion clinics have popped up all across the country in recent years, including right here in South Bend. So joining us now is Julie Addis, owner of Ketamine is Hope in South Bend. Julie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Happy holidays
Thank
to
you.
you.
Happy holidays to you.
Okay, I just did a story with you about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
I went to your clinic, your infusion therapy. Talk about ketamine. What is it for people at home?
Well, first of all, I have to thank you so much for bringing me on, because this is one of those moments that, okay, now the conversation has been brought up, right? The medicine is kind of in the forefront. So the infusion clinics are great for patients with treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, PTSD, suicidal ideations, and have just worked wonders.
Right.
So as in the case of Matthew Perry, it was found to be in his stomach when they discovered him, which an IV infusion is a half-life of 45 minutes and total time 4.5 hours.
Right, so it would not be from
So
an
he had
infusion.
that a week and a half before his death.
Wow.
So that leads to the fact that he's more than likely taking oral ketamine at home.
Which is totally
On his own.
different. And that's,
Yeah.
that's the decipher that we wanted to highlight, because when she did the story, Lauren just did it with you a couple weeks ago,
Right.
Doctor. It's a difference here because it's in an organized setting, it's in front of a
Right.
doctor, it's supervised, and it is helpful to a lot of the folks that have come through your doors. Correct?
Sure. Oh, yes. Yes.
And you monitor patients, right?
Patients are monitored the whole entire time.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're evaluated beforehand
Yeah.
and assessed as to whether they are a good candidate.
So what is ketamine exactly? Because you hear that word and I think people maybe think,
Yeah, is it new?
You know.
Like people associate it with, like, is it a tranquilizer?
Yeah.
Is it a high? Yeah, what is it at its
Yeah.
basic level?
Well, ketamine has been around since 1970 as an anesthetic.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we've used it in the operating rooms. They've used it on patients very unstable because it is so stable. They've used it in war times for people who are, bleeding out and things like that because of its stability.
and so what does it do for a patient exactly?
So in 2019, the FDA approved it as off-label for treatment-resistant depression, suicide, anxiety, things like that. It's an NMDA receptor antagonist, which is kind of a big term, right? But what it really does is it increases glutamate in your brain. So
Does
patients
that
who
mean
are-
it increases the feel-good hormones and allows you to, feel better?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And for patients who are resistant and haven't worked well with other antidepressants, yes, this can help
And
greatly.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What do you say to people, because this is the question we've had, we talk about it, especially since Matthew Perry, the people who don't understand what it is, who say, oh, it's just another drug.
Right.
What do you say to them?
Yeah, and it's not just another drug. No. And really, this is the time to realize that there are other options out there.
Right.
Besides, some medicines that don't work.
And let's talk about your story, because I know you worked in hospitals and your research really brought you to open up this infusion therapy, right? So talk about your story.
Well, I think through some personal things and some friends and family, I kind of started to think there has to be something else out there. And a few years ago, then I started to kind of research more about ketamine came up, and I've been to a few conferences, and the stories are just amazing. I mean, there's physicians that have used it for 20 plus years, but it's really coming into light now more. And it works very well as an IV infusion. It's safe. Like you said, I mean, patients are monitored the whole time they're there.
Why now? Why, you said it since 1970 this thing has been out, right? Ketamine has existed, or at least it's been known since 1970, and now it's 2019 when the FDA said, okay, off-label, we can, it's okay, it's good to go. But what took so long in between there? Were there studies that need to happen? Like, what was the reason?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, probably more studies that need to happen and things like that.
Gotcha, and the comfortability probably as well.
And who makes an ideal candidate? Because I know we talked about it's for people with depression, anxiety. There's a lot going on. People are dealing with a lot of stress right now.
Right. Oh, I mean, and there's just even more research coming out about, patients with long COVID.
Wow.
It's helpful. End of life care.
Yeah.
And so treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, PTSD, suicidal ideation.
Wow. And so someone can't just really walk up off the street and into your clinic,
No.
right? Talk about that process.
No. So the patients will go onto my website, which is ketamineishope.com, and they can contact me on there. They can call the office, and then I'll be in touch with them, and we'll go through who they've, who their physician is, who their referral is, and talk through things from there.
And that's so important to talk about the steps necessary. You can't just walk in or just come
Right.
off the street. There's a process that takes place. But I could just imagine the folks that you see, the patients that come through your door, they leave a different person in a
Yes.
good way.
Yes.
And that's
It's
I mean,
very rewarding. Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. Absolutely. Doctor, thank you.
Thank you for
you.
being here. We
Thank
so
you.
appreciate it. Again, Ketamine is Hope, located in South Bend. You want to say the address real quick?
Yeah, we're at, right across from Howard Park, 300 South St. Louis Boulevard.
Are you down the street? Yeah. Okay. Right in the center of the city.
And go check out her website too.
Yeah, and check out this interview at WNDU.com. If you're just joining us and saw the tail end of it, it's important perspective, and it's perspective from an expert as well. So,
Yes.
Doctor, again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. Stay there.